Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Geezers of Gear, episode number 213. Today's podcast was brought to you by GearSource. GearSource was founded in 2002 with a mission to help global live events businesses to move gear around the planet. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries and has sold $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. Now GearSource has completely evolved its platform for massive global growth, enabling 14 different localized currencies, payments held in escrow to protect buyers and sellers, AI-powered logistics behind a new global logistics brand, GearMoves, and so much more. Visit GearSource.com today and expand your access to global markets for your gear and global gear for your markets. Today's podcast is also brought to you by ACT Entertainment. Nearly every project brings unique constraints and criteria for lighting control. There's always a request for integration with other systems, and everything needs to be smart and easy to use and maintain. Not an easy task, even on the largest projects. That's why ACT Entertainment is thrilled to be distributing the Visual Productions line of incredible control products. Designed for continuous and reliable deployment in installations as well as live events, these versatile and easy-to-use devices deliver on the promise of complete project integration on budget. If you are obsessive about control, the Visual Productions lineup was made just for you. Learn more by visiting actentertainment.com. And thanks for joining me. Something's weird here. My desk is too low. That's what it is. Aha. Now I can see. So, yeah, it's after Christmas now. I don't know when it is that you're listening to this, but I'm between Christmas and New Year's, and Christmas was boring. New Year's is probably going to be boring because I don't generally like to do a heck of a lot at New Year's, and I call it amateur hour. You know, it's just one of those nights. It's like Valentine's Day where you get half the service and half the quality at twice the price, and you just end up disappointed. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to go there. And so, yeah, I think New Year's will be a pretty quiet night. You know, for me, this whole week, like the whole Christmas to New Year's end of year kind of thing, it's about two things, reflecting and planning. And so you're reflecting on what just happened, what the hell just went on in 2023, and planning being how am I either going to repeat this because it was an amazing year, or in my case, completely, destroy it and blow it up and turn it into something amazing next year. And so a lot of planning, a lot of reflecting, a lot of just reminders and learning and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been recording a bunch of podcasts. We're doing a sponsor special, which I believe will air maybe the day after this one does. So I think it's going to be episode 214. That is really just gratitude to our sponsors, asking them a few questions about how they saw the business this year, how they're going to see it next year, and some good responses there. So hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. And but today is actually one of my favorite people in the whole industry, a very good friend of mine. We've become quite close buddies. I talk to him a lot. We speak almost every day, every couple of days. Sometimes it's about business, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's politics, sometimes it's something else. So I think we're going to have one of those discussions today that's just kind of a mixed bag of everything. And so, yeah, this is my good friend, John Wiseman. John.
Marcel, my man, how are you?
What's happening? Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, man. It's just
likewise.
Beautiful day here in the Washoe Valley, Reno, Nevada, Lake Tahoe area. Fantastic.
You're not in the LA office. I think every time I talk to you, you're in the LA office lately. You spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I bounce in and out of there a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I've been. This was really a crazy travel year for me. I think it was probably the busiest travel year I've ever had, and that's saying something.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time like in UAE and stuff, right? Like I think you went there a few times.
Well, yeah, it's weird because last year post COVID, which is, a good part of the discussion, for some reason, my particular group of clients all started in Europe,
Huh.
and they all started in stadiums. So I had, you know, well, not to, there's Europe and South America. So I had Coldplay rehearsals in Costa Rica, went straight from there to Paris for Beyonce rehearsals, and she rehearses for a long period. And so we did a month in Paris, then there was a week off, and I went back and forth a couple of times, and then there was a week off, and then we started off in Stockholm. And who else did I have over there? I had Maroon 5 over there, so I went over there like for 2 days for those guys. Um, what else do I have going on? I just Motley Crue was over there, Def Leppard was over there, so it was just like a lot of bouncing in and out of Europe last year.
And were the stadiums generally because of the size of the shows, or was it because it's just safer and people were happier being outdoors?
No, it had nothing to do with safety or outdoors. It was
No.
just, I think people were starved. I think people were starved to do something, and those acts and those packages could sell, 40 to 60,000 seats.
Yeah.
So it became economics, and it became demand, supply and demand.
Yeah.
And, I thought to myself, my God, how's everybody affording this? Because, it's a babysitter. It's, you got to buy, maybe dinner, parking, T-shirts, the concert
Parking
tickets.
these days is friggin' ridiculous. I know you don't deal with it, but most of us human punters do. And I mean, like, to go to a hockey game, parking is $40.
Oh, yeah.
Here in South Florida, where nobody cares about hockey, it's $40 to park.
I'll tell you a funny story about parking. So when I started Chaos, my business partner was, there was Nick Jackson and Rich Oster, and we had some other people that had parts of it, but I was the majority owner, and the second majority owner, so the second one underneath me, was a guy named Chris Kamen, who played for the Clippers for 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Chris is a delightful guy. When he got traded, it hit the news wire. He didn't even know it was happening. So he and Farouk and Eric Gordon got traded to New Orleans for Chris Paul, and it just hit the wires. And I saw it, and I called him, and he was on the team bus. And I go, bro, did you get traded? He goes, yeah, I just got the word. I just got traded. I go, oh shit. He goes, yeah. And I go, what about my parking? And he goes, your parking? I go, yeah, because each player had 2 parking spots, and you would drive down underneath Staples Center. They had a valet there, and I had one of the spots he gave to me. So I would bring clients and friends and family, and you'd pull up to the top of the ramp. They'd wave you down. You'd drive down the bottom.
I had the same thing for the Florida Panthers for a long time.
Unbelievable.
And they wanted me to re-up some seats that I was paying for. And I said, no problem. I want the parking again. And they said, no, we can't do it. They're cutting us back on how many of those spots we can give away and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I said, then cancel my tickets. I couldn't go back to the regular parking lot,
No,
Getting
you can't.
out of your car and going straight up the elevator to your seats. It's like, hey, that's how I want to do it.
Yeah. And when you're there for a game, there's no trucks down there because there's no load in, load out. So there's room for like probably 50 cars, and that's it. Yeah. And so it's the team only, and the visiting bus is parked there, so the visiting team would go in and out of there. But man, as I've gotten older, I had no idea parking would be so important.
It's true, man. It is true. It's amazing. Especially
my
stadiums,
daughter,
how far you have to walk sometimes.
Yeah. My daughter, we were just you and I offline. We're talking about Keith Urban. So my daughter Katie, she came to me and she said, hey Dad, I want to go see this guy named Keith Urban. And this is like 20 years ago. And I go, who's that? She said, oh no, he's got to be really big. He's really good. And I went, we're living in LA at the time. And I'm thinking, I said, oh shit, I don't want to go to a show. And she said, I go, where's he playing? She goes, Universal Amphitheater. I go, oh, no problem. You drive down back lot, valet parking. I go, sure, Let's go.
Yeah, that's amazing. But, you were talking about Europe. The thing is, like I know my business in general, we've seen more growth in Europe than in the US over the last year. So I don't know if that plays into it or what, but it just seems like Europe was gangbusters in 23. And I don't know, who knows what's going to happen because there's so much stuff going on right now. Like, are you paying any attention to this? You know who the Houthis are? Not
No,
Houthi and the Blowfish, the Houthis.
not the
Houthis
Houthi
are like,
rebels.
yeah, the Houthi rebels. Yeah, the
Got
guys
the
from
bad
Yemen.
guys.
From
Yemen,
Yemen.
yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, paying a lot of attention to them.
So you know they're like pirating and blowing up ships and
Yeah,
using drones to blow up
yeah,
ships and stuff.
yeah. So what are we waiting for?
Well, but I mean, here's the issue. And so, you know, without going too far down the rabbit hole, so already this has only been happening for a short period of time where they're nailing ships going into the Suez Canal and blocking them and or burning them or blowing them up or whatever.
Into the Red Sea, yeah.
And it's already 3x'd freight from like Asia to Europe.
Yeah, because
And
they got to go around the Cape of Good
thousands
Hope,
of
I think,
miles.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thousands of miles extra. And so three times for a container cost going into Europe. And that hasn't
Wow.
really bled too much into the US yet, but it will.
It
And
will.
you know, like I was listening to somebody talking about it and they were like, "Well, it's okay. They can just do air freight." And I mean, not only is air freight like 10 times as much money, but and I didn't know the numbers, but
There's a
what
lot
they
less
said,
space.
well, listen to this. Do you know how much less? It's incredible. And you
Yeah,
probably do know, but
there's like 5%.
not way less. So a
Really?
a typical container ship can hold up to 10,000 containers.
Wow.
A 747, 7 containers.
Wow. Yeah.
So
And then you got the size of the door to deal with too. So
exactly.
we've had things kicked off on the runway because they had to, like they had a change in equipment. So
Yeah.
747 changes to a back in the day a DC-10, it was a different size door. Yeah, so all that. Yeah, the Houthi things, and that's interesting too because I had a little bit of brush with that, what's going on over there. A really good friend of mine named Curly Jobson, who deals primarily with our UK office, and Yvonne Donnelly over there, who's just a badass. She's me of our company over there.
Yeah.
She's so they do this thing called Sandstorm. Have you heard of Sandstorm?
No.
Okay, you have to check this out. Sandstorm is put on by a company called Middle Beast, not Middle East, Middle Beast. And Sandstorm, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but I feel comfortable enough saying I think it's the biggest festival on planet Earth. It's sponsored by the Saudi government. And what I gathered from my friend Curly, who works directly for Middle Beast, and they are over there. The companies are owned by the nation. So
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia and MBS over there, the guy who runs it, he's trying to kind of drag them into the 1960s,
Yeah.
trying to like make it more Western kind of. I think the goal is, from what I can kind of see, is Saudi. They understand that the way some of their medieval ways of doing things are, it's not tenable with
Yeah.
social media, and
Yeah.
you can't have women not drive, and all that kind of crazy
Yeah.
shit they still do.
Yeah.
So they're kind of, I think that Saudi Arabia will end up being more like Abu Dhabi, Dubai, some
Yeah.
of the Qatar, all those other places. So they're dragging in. So he's sponsoring this festival, and the festival is massive, and it's probably one of the best laid out festivals I've ever seen. There's like six or seven stages. It's massive. The video screen's like 100 feet high and like 500 feet wide. No, it's insane.
This isn't the one that just happened, the EDM
Yeah.
festival. Oh,
No,
yeah,
it's
I
not
know about
ED.
that.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. They got
The one where
it's not
Metallica
EDM.
played.
That's the one. That's
It's
the one.
EDM
Right.
because Rob was telling me about it on the podcast last week.
Well, I actually bumped into Rob out there. We actually, I walked into his trailer and we had a really fantastic 30-minute good
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Yeah, that's
But
the
he
one.
said he said it's an EDM show.
That's Travis Scott. It was Chris Brown. It was Metallica. It was it might have started out as an EDM, and they did have they had some EDM, but like Coachella is a rock. The only pure like festival is if you've got like download festivals, heavy metal,
Yeah.
outside Donington, right? And then you've got like the country festival, what's called Stagecoach. That's country, right?
Yeah.
But you've got Coachella. There's EDMs, there's rock and roll.
Yeah, it's a mixed
It's not
bag.
power trip exactly.
Right.
So, which is kind of smart marketing. But this thing was over the top. So Curly
Yeah.
kind of runs it all. And then like Alex Reardon did the big design and did just a spectacular job. I should hook you up with Alex. You should interview him. He's a really
Yeah, that'd be fun.
fascinating, very talented man. So yeah, I just got back from that. So going back to the whole Yemen container thing, Curly has been asking me, Michael Jobson's been asking me to come over because he's very proud of what they've built, because they literally they're in the middle of the desert, and they've got an incredible edict from the government that happens to have a lot of our gasoline money to put on something special. And so they put on something special, and they built it from the ground up. They just built it. And there's no like Coachella is confined by, the Polo Grounds. Download is confined by, and what's the other one that's in Scotland?
Yeah.
I can't think of big festivals. Glastonbury.
Yeah.
They're defined by borders and boundaries and cities and all that. This is just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Here's the desert. Go for it.
Yeah. And so they brought in Alex, and they brought in some other really great designers. They got some wonderful people, and it's amazing. But getting back to the other part. So my wife's going, you're flying to Saudi Arabia next week? And I go, yeah. She goes, isn't there a war going on over there? And I'm like, yeah, and for a couple of months leading up to it, I'm wondering, is this going to still happen? Because it's a really big job for all the vendors, not just PRG, but the local vendors, and there's some other people over there. I mean, we do a major part of the festival, but like if that's shut down, it's a $200 million loss to all the vendors.
Ouch.
So you start having those kind of things, and it starts affecting the business. I mean, our business, as you know, Marcel, looks really big from the outside, but we operate on pretty thin margins. We have incredible labor costs, and what is it? You can take 5 years to build a company, and you can one bad gig will completely put you out of business.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Where's you were talking about the freight issue though?
Well, the freight issue was I was just talking about the whole Middle East thing. Because I'm thinking to myself, every now and then, not to be like, you have to consider all the things. I'm thinking to myself, shit, every now and then, like Russia will shoot down a passenger plane by mistake. So-and-so will shoot down a passenger plane by mistake. It's like, I'm going to be flying over fucking Iran. It's like, really, is this a smart trip to do? Because it would just be my luck, after all the shit I've been through in my life, to get in a random passenger plane shot down, and where they go, sorry, wrong
but it
plane.
wouldn't be blown up or anything. They'd just like clip the wing and make you land somewhere in the desert, and you'd have to put up with a bunch of annoying people for like 9 days until you got rescued or something.
They'd have to put up with me.
Exactly. Yeah, you'd probably get grumpy after a few days, I would think.
Absolutely.
You'd run out of the food from first class, and you'd be like, God damn
What's
it.
going on
you
back
guys
there?
Eat this shit back there? This is garbage. Flying has had to be, with you traveling as much as you have, I don't fly that much anymore, but this year I did a bit, mostly because of my kids racing, but it's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass.
It
is a pain in the ass.
Even like, and I probably don't have anywhere near the status you do now on the airlines, because I don't fly as much anymore, but I'm still platinum on a few airlines, and platinum means nothing anymore. Like you're just like everybody else when you're platinum. You got to be like 1K or this or that, like all of these elite levels. Yeah. I'm just not there anymore. So,
well, but that's why I stick with pretty much like 2 airlines.
Yeah.
I've got lifetime status, the top status on Delta, just from I flew them so much back in the day, and now I don't fly them that much, but I still have the status. They gave me a
Yeah.
lifetime status. But I love Southwest.
Yeah.
I love Southwest.
Well,
It's
because
cheap,
no
it's cheerful.
expectations. You
Well,
know?
and you know what? You pay the $15 or whatever, and you get the business select. And
Yeah.
after all the bogus assholes who claim to be pre-boarded, after those 15 people
Yeah.
go on for free, you
Yeah.
can get on. You generally get a pretty decent seat, and it's cheap and cheerful. I don't do any long hauls on that, but
Yeah.
it's I kind of like the Southwest vibe. They're kind of funny. They say funny shit when they're doing
Yeah.
announcements.
Yeah.
They throw peanuts at you,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kind of
I'm
like that
with you.
vibe. But I pretty much stick on American because the price is negligibly the same.
Yeah.
But I have such status with American that I've had some pretty interesting. I've had some pretty interesting positive experiences when they've canceled a plane, when they canceled a flight. One time I was on a flight. This buddy of mine from my hometown, he's a stockbroker, and him and I kind of came up in the music business together. And he went off in the stockbroker. And he said to me one time, he goes, "Hey, I got to go on one of these trips with you, because you're calling me from all these crazy places. I got to go with you." And I said, "Okay." I said, "So I've got Green Day playing at Wembley Stadium, and Joan Jett's opening, and it'll be fun, right? So come with me for that." So he and I get on the plane, and we're sitting on the plane. We're in first class, and he's next to me. And they came up, and you got to understand, I look like a homeless person half the time when I'm traveling, right? So they tap me on the shoulder and whisper in my ear, "Mr. Wiseman, this plane's going to cancel in about 15 minutes. Could you very quietly, you and your friend, Mr. Martinez, could you grab your things and follow me off the plane? Don't say anything," right? So it looks like I'm getting thrown off the plane. And so we're grabbing our stuff, and we're real quiet. We walk off the plane, and they have the golf cart, and they take you over. They go, "We got you protected on another flight." And we go over and we get protected on that flight, and we go to the other flight. And he just kind of looks at me and kind of shakes his head. And so we get to the hotel, and they upgrade us to a nice suite in London, which is just nice, right? Didn't cost any more. And then we go to the show, and of course I've been friends with Joan and her whole band, Kenny Laguna, forever, like 40 years. And Kenny, it's the stadium, and they're playing the stadium, and it's like 60, 70,000 people there, and Kenny Laguna's stage right, and we're standing stage right, and he's playing piano, and he looks over and he goes, "Wiseman?" "Hi, Kenny." In the middle of the show, and he just walks off the stage and comes over and gives me a big hug.
That's
And it's
hilarious.
loud as shit, and we're talking, we're kind of yelling, I'm introducing him to my friend, and I go, "Kenny, shouldn't you go back?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I should go back." And he goes back and finishes the song, and my friend looks at me and he goes, "Okay, so the plane, the hotel," the guy walked, he goes, "Who the fuck are you?"
That's
I go,
hilarious.
"Nobody. I am nobody. I'm just right guy, right place, right time."
Yeah. No, you've worked
Yeah.
hard for that. You've worked hard for that little bit of benefit that you're getting now at this stage of your life, right?
Yeah, why not?
Worked really hard for it. Plus, I mean, the amount you're traveling, and this is how I've always explained it to people. You can't raise your eyebrow at me because I'm flying in business class
Nah.
when I'm gone like almost every single week. I'm gone somewhere on an airplane. And like when I was with Martin was the worst because I would fly from Miami to Denmark to China, back to Denmark, to LA, back to Miami, say hello
In 6
to
days.
my ex-wife, go to New York, go back to Denmark. I mean, yeah, like just constantly not even knowing what time zone you're on, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, mine has been nonstop like that, and it still is. I think I was gone last year probably about 250 days, and I probably, of those flights, were probably, I was probably on flights 175 of those days.
That's insane. That's a lot of flying.
Well, yeah, it's not a luxury. It's really not a luxury.
No,
because
I get it.
what people don't understand is, like, we're not going on vacation. When we land, we go right to work.
Yeah.
And I don't stay 3 or 4 days in a place if I don't need to. I
Yeah.
go in, I get done. It's like, like this last trip to Saudi. That was probably the second longest trip I've ever taken. It was, Reno to Dallas was 3.5 hours. Dallas to Doha was 16.5 hours. And then Doha, and then there's like an 8-hour layover, and then Doha to Riyadh's another 1.5 hours. So you're talking 24 hours to get there. And then I was talking to a friend of mine in another business. He goes, "Do you really have to go to that thing?" And I go, "No, I don't have to go." I said, "But it's going to be a lot of opportunity." And he said, "Well, what do you think's going to happen when you get there?" And I go, "I have no idea." I said, "I'm going to run into people like I ran into Rob. Didn't expect to see Rob.
That's great.
I ran to Tony DiCiaccio, hung out with Tony DiCiaccio back in the Metallica's dressing compound for, half an hour. Had a great time. These are all just, and then, ran to Alex Reardon, hung out with Curly, hung out, just one person leads to another to another. And then, I actually got business out of there and that's what happens is I always end up getting a gig, a sniff of a gig, or 2 or 3 gigs because you're in the mix. And if you're not in the mix, you don't know what's going on. So a lot of times I'll show up with no plan. It's like, okay, let's see what's going on.
Speaking of Rob, so we recorded that episode on I think it was the 19th. And we had a fairly long conversation about Lars and specifically about the meter. I'm like, how do you follow the shots when you don't know,
yeah,
is he going to hit it here? Because he pushes a lot,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
his meter's a bit
You're
tough
being
to
so
follow.
kind.
Yeah, well, we were relatively kind, but we got into it pretty good on it. And the next day or the day after, I think it was the 21st or something, he called me and he said, "Hey, Marcel, have you already completed that? Is it uploaded or anything?" I said, "It's uploaded, but it's scheduled for next week. Why?" And he said, "Well, I know it's probably a lot of work, but would you mind doing some editing?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What?" And he said, "The stuff about Lars." I said, "Oh, that was 7 minutes." And he goes, "Yeah, well, his dad died yesterday, on the 20th, I guess his father passed away. And plus Lars's birthday was on the 26th, was when we were launching it, I think."
Right.
And so he said, "You don't have to do it. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not even telling you that it's going to be a big deal because I doubt Lars is ever going to hear it.
Just kind of the vibe doesn't feel right for him.
It feels shitty."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, consider it done." And I mean, so I think I had to get up on, I don't know if it was Christmas morning or the next day.
Yeah.
And early in the morning, I had to download everything, re-edit everything, and re-upload it all. And it took me, I don't know, an hour and a half or something. But, you do it.
Well, it's funny. The funny thing about Lars is he's the founder and the driving force in the biggest fucking band ever, arguably in the top 10 in the world, and still going.
Yeah.
And people want to not criticize him. They want to discuss what he does and how he's doing it. It's like, motherfucker's doing something right, and I'll tell you something.
Hey, it's like Nikki Sixx. It's like Ringo Starr. It's like, you don't necessarily have to be good to be massive, Well, and I'm not saying Lars is bad because it takes a special type of drummer to do what he does.
Oh man, they created a whole new genre, man. I mean, those guys at the speed metal out of San Francisco, are you shitting me? Yeah. I'll tell you my funny Lars story. And I've met Lars a couple of times. He wouldn't know me if I walked into the room. But I know everybody around him. And so I was with the Foos in New Hampshire. There's this really great gig in New Hampshire. I forget the name of it. Lake Winnipesaukee. It's 10 minutes from there. And it's a small amphitheater, and it's about 8,000 seats. And I was there with the Foo Fighters. And it was the first show without Taylor. The first start off positive show without Taylor. And it was Josh Freese was sitting in as the new drummer. And they were kind of it was the weekend before Boston Calling. So it was a great, warm, friendly, fuzzy, kind of safe gig to kind of get started, right?
That's cool.
And it was a very happy vibe and a very sad vibe all at once, as you can imagine.
Of course.
And so this was they call it roadie day camp or something, because there's a swimming pool, there's some kind of putting course. There's the catering's incredible. They give you pajamas when you leave that are embroidered
with
the
that?
date and everything. It's you know what? I actually have
the brochure.
No, I had the jacket they gave me. I thought it was here. I'll figure it out and I'll tell you. But it's a great gig. It's just outside of Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire.
Huh.
You can probably Google it. I'll bet you your gal Sarah's all over it right now. So So we're sitting in catering, having a nice chat, and they said, "Oh, we're the opening band," and I'm like, "Oh, so let me get my lighting guy and make sure that you get some production, you get some stuff doing. I'll get all clear with the foods to take care of you. And the foods are just all about being good people, and so." They go, yeah, can you, yeah, come out and watch us. So I got out, I think I caught the last song, and it was these two guys, and it was almost like a White Stripes kind of thing, just the drummer
Not
and the
Royal
singer
Blood.
and no, the band's called Taipei Houston.
Okay.
And I asked them, I said, where'd you get that name? And they said, well, we just were bored during COVID, and we found the longest flight we could find was called Taipei Houston. Since we're in for the long haul, we thought we'd name ourselves after the longest flight we could find. I said, well, the longest flight I was on was London to Sydney. It was like 30 hours with one stop, and I got drunk and sober twice on the flight. So we had a good laugh, right? So they're nice kids. So after the show, we're all hanging out, blah, blah, blah. And they say, yeah, we just got signed to do opening act for such and such in Europe. I said, well, send me your itinerary. I said, I'm heading over there for some gigs. If I'm around, I'll pop in and try to see the show like I was unable to do tonight, right? And so they send me their itinerary. I look at it, and they're in Amsterdam the same day I'm in Amsterdam. And so I stayed over an extra night, and I went to the gig and hanging out with these kids. It was Lars's two sons.
No way.
And I had no idea. I had no idea.
And they didn't tell you, which is super cool.
No, and they were the most polite, nice, solid young men I'd met in a really long time.
Oh, that's really cool. Doesn't happen often.
Well, so my Lars story is he and his wife, I think is now his ex-wife, did a hell of a job raising these kids because they are fantastic. And the band was really fucking good. You'd probably like them, Marcel. I was kind of blown away.
I'm going to have to check it out.
Taipei Houston. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else you got going on? How's Jeremy doing?
He's off right now, so he's doing a bunch of sim racing. I think he's doing, the Daytona Rolex 24 races in a couple weeks or something. So he's doing the online version of it, because his dad's about $500,000 short of the $500,000 it takes to actually drive in the Rolex 24. But
he couldn't get a cheaper hobby, could he?
No, it's well, I mean, to be perfectly fair, like it's not been a hobby. It's really been his job since he was about 8 years old. It's all he's really done. School has been part-time, racing's been full-time. And so even now, like he's been back for about six weeks, I guess. And he's on the sim every single day, at least 5 or 6 hours, racing the tracks that he's planning to be racing next year. And
it's a passion.
It's a passion. It's, unfortunately it's a job that's very hard to get paid for, because there's only so many seats in the world that get paid. And there's a lot of billionaires that have sons or daughters now. Daughters is sort of a hot trend right now. Yeah. Who want to be racing. They want a trophy racing kid. It used to be a tennis player. Now they want racing driver kids. So, so it's difficult. Like I talked to him a couple days ago, had a long talk saying, you need to start having some life plans past next year. So next year he's going to do one more season, I think, in the UK. And then from there decide, hey, is this, where I invest my life? Because then he's turning 20 next year. And so the following year he'll be turning 21. And I'm not saying he needs to have a career and a life planned. Yeah, I'd actually rather him take 3 years and go backpack the world or something, But
that's a good plan.
But I don't want him to keep investing all of this time and effort and money and energy into motorsport if it's just going the way of billionaires, So.
We'll see. It's tough. It's tough. You talk about how many seats there are. I mentioned Chris Kamen earlier.
Yeah.
I was talking to him one time, and he looked at me and he just said, and I'm gonna get this number wrong, but it's pretty close. He goes, John, there's like 10 billion people on planet Earth, and there's 360 NBA players.
Yeah, crazy.
He said the funnel gets tight. He goes, I just happen to be blessed with a 7-foot frame. And I worked hard and had some skills, and I was able to do it. He said, but it's the bottleneck.
No, it's totally
It's
true.
well, it's
It's
like, and it's like I think I think you're a lot better off with him than, like, I see some of these families who go all in for their kid to be an NFL player, or all in for their kid to be, in Major League
Racing's even
Baseball.
worse. Racing's even worse. Like I know people literally who have sold their company, sold their house, sold everything they have to keep their
Wow.
kid in the dream to get there, right? And fortunately, we've got some good friends and some companies
Yeah.
that I've done a lot for who are willing to support him. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like I'm still paying the other half, and
Right.
it's just it's hard. So, realistically, like in so you talk about 360 players or whatever in motorsport. There's 20 in Formula One, and I think there's 28 in IndyCar.
Are you shitting
And
me?
so in open wheel racing, that's it. You've basically got 48 seats paid in the world. And of those 48 seats, like in IndyCar now, there's probably about 10 that are paid for by the dads, but they look like employees, but the dad paid for, like, I have a few friends who happen to be very wealthy, and one just finished doing a deal for $12 million for 2 years for his kid to race in IndyCar. One did a deal last year, $8.5 million for 2 years in IndyCar. And the
Wow.
difference in price just is the quality of the team that you're on, right?
Well,
Penske's
and
going to
of the
cost more than.
of those 40 that you see, just take Indy for example. I can, the general public can name maybe the top three people, and then the other 37, you don't know who the hell they are,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're finishing like, 20 seconds behind, and they're nobodies. It's crazy.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but they have one of those coveted seats. When you move into like tin tops, as the Brits call them, cars with doors and a roof, GT cars or whatever, there's a
NASCAR.
lot more paid seats. Not NASCAR, but like Porsche GT Cup, BMW GT,
Okay.
Ferrari, Lamborghini, all the GT stuff, especially in Europe, is huge. And so you can go, a driver, if you meet the right people and you win the right races, you can go live in Germany and race professionally and make 300,000 euro a year
Have a good
as a
life.
professional driver, live with a supermodel, and have a great life. And Jeremy would be perfectly happy with that. He's not looking to get rich and famous. He's looking to drive a car for a living,
Isn't that
and
awesome though? Good,
outside of
good for
Uber,
him.
not an Uber,
Not an
but
Uber.
yeah. So I was going to ask you about business, like 2023. So here's the progression that I've heard from most people. 22 was batshit crazy, just like completely exploded out of the gate and
At the
never
end,
slowed down.
at the end, at the end.
Really?
It took it a while to. Yeah, well, if you think about it, that COVID was about 18 to 24 months, and so that the shit hit the fan March 18th, 2020, which I happen to know that because that was when we did
Yeah, that
the
Zoom call thing.
the
Day
motherfucking middle
91.
thing. Yeah, exactly. When I said, this is bullshit. There's no way they're gonna cancel these. I
Yeah,
just was
yeah.
completely called it all
Well, I
bullshit.
remember you saying PRG is fucked if they cancel the Olympics. And then it
Yeah,
was the Berlin Auto Show or something,
and then
right?
it's this, and then it's that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you kept raising the bar a little bit, and
Well, you know what?
PRG survived it, and almost everyone survived it, which is incredible. You know?
It's incredible. What a fucking mess. So I would say, I wouldn't say 2022 was bonkers. I would say the end of 2022, it started gearing up, because remember, Marcel, it was still tentative.
Yeah,
Is this coming back, or is this shit really gone, or are they going to act like it's gone, or what's going to really happen here? 2023 exploded,
yeah,
just exploded, and I mean, like, so you had 18 to 20 months of delayed touring put on top of the touring that was going to happen already. And
yeah,
I kept, then my doomsday was, when are people going to run out of money? And at what point are they going to stop putting this shit on their credit cards? And so
yeah,
like next year is teaming up. Our board and our management at PRG, they came and they said, do you think you guys can do a 10, 12% increase? Because there's this corporate bullshit where it's an automatic, you're going to grow every year, right? It's like, I say to them, look, there was one point where someone in management said to me, we're $12 million off. And I just said, no, you're not. I said, you're not. I said, there's things that are going to fill in, things that are going to happen that we don't even know about, but I can guarantee you they're going to happen. They said, well, how do you know this? And I said, because it happens every fucking year. Yeah. It happens every year. Yeah. And they wanted a further explanation. And at this point, Marcel, I was getting a little frustrated by what I thought to be
it's very
repetitively stupid fucking questions, right?
Well, that's why they call it a forecast too, right? It's not called a guarantee or a promise or a whatever. It's called a forecast,
Well, we learn or we don't learn from history. History repeats itself. You can, like not to get political, but the Holocaust now with this other shit's going on. It's like, haven't we already been to this fucking rodeo? Right, and so I said to them, because you know me, Marcel, I can be colorful at times. I finally said, look, let me explain this to you.
There's an understatement, yeah.
Yeah. We're the tail of the dog, okay? And we're the part of the tail that's right by the asshole where the shit comes out, okay? And I said, and the dog is the artists and Live Nation and AEG and the remaining independent promoters who own venues that they have to put something in, okay? And they have to put something in, even if it's shit, to get the parking money, the popcorn money, the beer money, the t-shirt concession slice, all of that stuff has to happen. I said, they have a bigger problem than we do. Mm-hmm. Because they have more at risk than we do. They have empty real estate sitting there that they're paying taxes on. They have staff and everything else. So I can just fucking guarantee you that something's going to go in there, and they're going to need something from either us or Solotech or Four Wall or whoever happens to be in it. And I said, we will get our slice of that pie. So get the fuck out of my office and stop asking these stupid questions. That's what I said. Yeah,
did you see Rapinoe's article?
I kicked him out of my office.
That's hilarious. Get out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Get fuck
John.
out.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Did you see I might have even sent it to you, the Rapinoe article about how artists have these massive social media followings now. And he said, basically it was him talking to shareholders pretty much saying, look, we got loads of blue sky and lots of untapped potential still. This market's going to grow big time. And they were like, yeah, so how? And he said, well, pick artist A, for example, has 10 million people that follow him on each of these social media platforms. Our job is easy. All we have to do is sell tickets to 5% of them.
Well, and that's what these guys do is they play the percentages. They go, look, if we sell 3%, that's all we got to do. So our job is to capture
social
3
media
to 5%, and that's it.
That's incredible, though. It's an incredible concept that they're milking it that hard. You know what I mean? Like
that's exactly how I would look at it.
Yeah,
because we're in a percentages game. We're just in a percentages game. We're gonna, like people say, is who's the number one company in the world? I go, well, what fucking day is it? Today might be my day. Tomorrow might be Mickey Kirbishley's day. The next day might be whoever's running Four Wall. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think
it's still Wes today.
I don't know. I've never met him. I don't know the guy.
You haven't met Wes?
I don't think so. If I have, he wasn't very memorable.
He's an interesting guy. It's an interesting story because he used to, I think, and Wes, if you're listening, and I'm misquoting this, I'm sorry, but I think he was actually a farm hand or a ranch hand that worked for Mike Cannon on Michael's ranch.
Oh,
and
good. Smart.
And Michael
smart guy.
hired him to come work at Four Wall. And then when he sold Four Wall, they kept Wes, and somehow he became the CEO, and he's done very well.
Well, good for him. You know what? That's the American. That's the American
really
dream.
Is. It's a
good work ethic. Yeah, good work ethic. Work your way to the top. Shit, dude. I started out as a stagehand unloading trucks. I was absolutely floundering, didn't know what I was going to do. I had a lot of plans. I was going to maybe go to law school. I was going to maybe do this, do that. And I just fell into the music business because my girlfriend worked at the student union, and I ended up unloading a truck one day. And so, here I am.
Yeah. You would have made a good litigator.
Oh yeah.
You're a good arguer. You don't lose a lot of arguments.
No. And it did me well in the XL Video Chaos lawsuit because, man, I dug in. I was like, that was law school for me, dude. That was 18 months, 14 hours a day, and running a business with Nick, trying to keep everything afloat. That was I remember sitting down in court every day and looking over it because they sued Val Dox too, as our general manager. Yeah. And I remember looking at Val and just going, man, isn't this fascinating? And he goes, what are you, nuts? And I go, well, look, I wish it wasn't us, but this is really,
it's so funny. That's the same way I was with Google. I was like, I was in awe half the time going, wow, I feel like this is television, but it's actually, I'm the one getting fucked and not the actor on TV,
Exactly. And then, and it was, to me, you're either going to be miserable or you're going to embrace it and have some fun with it. And I just embraced it and had as much fun as I possibly could. I just loved intimidating the lawyers on the other side because they didn't fucking know what to make out of me. I told one guy I was going to throw him out a window one time. Oh, he looked at me and I said, look, shrug your shoulders at me one more fucking time. And I said, I'm coming over this table. And I'm going to beat the fucking shit out of you. And then and he goes, you can't speak to my co-counsel that way. I go, really, pal? I go, when I'm done with him, what the fuck do you think's going to happen to you?
That's hilarious.
I said, I'll throw you out the fucking window. We're on the 40th floor. And I said, try me. I said, fucking try it.
That's funny.
And they just shut down.
So John, was 23 your biggest year personally? Without giving me any numbers.
I think my biggest year personally is I sold a couple of companies back in the last 20 years, and those were like one-time big hits. Right?
No, but I mean biggest year as far as the amount of business you ran.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That for me personally, underneath the PRG umbrella and what I handle between myself and I'm fortunate enough to have really great people around me, like Burton Tannenbaum and Luch, and we've got some really great young people coming up, Brooke, and we just Paige Newman, who her father and I are friends for years and years. We were always on different sides of the table, but always respectfully enjoyed each other. We've got some great people underneath, so I'm tied to a lot of those people, Yvonne and James Morden. And, there's just some, Richie Garrod. There's just some really great people in our organization.
And Team John kicked ass this year.
You know what? We were firing on all. It was like a V12 firing on every cylinder. It was magical. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of. I mean, these are the kind of problems. So, if someone would complain, I go, "Are you fucking kidding me? This is shit we dream about. Bring it on."
So you're probably in weeks of budgeting meetings and stuff now, and or
no, I don't go
done
on those.
Now. You don't?
No, I just give them a number.
Is the number bigger for next year?
My number, I think our number is a little bit bigger for next year, but that's not the beauty of being part of like an organization like PRG when you're in the sales force, is that everything hit last year, right? But when I say everything, I'm talking about in concert touring because that's primarily where I am. But I'm involved in some art stuff. I'm involved in television. I'm involved. Like I just got a call to be involved as like an associate producer to do a Netflix thing with Adam Sandler, which I'm going to work for his brother and his niece and his executive producer who does all his films. I'm like way under them, helping them out. So there's all there's all these different verticals that if like music hit on all cylinders, but we had the SAG strike and we had the writers strike, which just completely shut down 90% of our film and television division.
Right.
So you know what it is, Marcel? It's like if I'm hitting on all 12 cylinders, those guys are hitting on 0 cylinders. So now it all just kind of evens out. If all of the divisions ever hit at once, it would be spectacular. But it ain't gonna happen.
During COVID, you had a little bit of television. You had lots of install work that was still being done.
Yeah.
And those, like I remember Solo Tech telling me probably beginning of 21 or something, 50%. They said, um, what was it? We're at 50%. No, they were at 30% overall, but 50%. I don't remember. Anyways, it all came from install work.
50% of their business is install.
Yeah, and that
Flat
carried
out.
them. That carried them.
And that carried them through. And we didn't do that much of that. Those guys, that's something we haven't really focused on. But what I'm saying is that, you know, like in 23, music was hitting, but it was making up for some of the losses in some of the other parts of the company. Now next year, music might not be firing on all 12 cylinders. We might be firing on 8, but the 4 that were dead in TV and film are going to be revived again, and that's going to make up the difference. And that's the beauty of being in an organization that's not just one vertical, right? Just one vertical. You've got complementary things. I mean, and the other thing too that I think makes us a little bit different. This is Jerry Harris's vision that has actually come true, and he expresses it well. We're the production resource group, which means we're a group of people that have resources that know how to do production, right? And so a lot of why we did well last year is I didn't get in bidding wars with people to drive the price down to get a X tour or a Y tour. We got interesting projects where we were able to work hand in hand with artists to bring their vision to the stage. That is magic. That it's magic on a business end, but it's also magic personally because as a salesman, I don't play guitar. I don't play, any instruments. I play the telephone, but basically there is a little bit of artwork to a deal, and you have to make these deals. But we also,
Wait, didn't I read that book? Did you come up with a book, The Art of the Deal? Oh, no, that was the other guy. That's the other guy.
That's the other guy. But you know what? But the other part too is that we're able to make it work financially for people. So we have the financial ability. So we go a lot deeper than I think the other companies. I'm not disparaging them in any way because every company has there's things that are wrong with us, but there's some pretty cool shit that we're able to do that nobody else is able to do. We're able to have the financial resources, the people who actually know production, and there's a group of us, and we're in 60 locations around the world. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, so our projects and why we did really well last year was we weren't bidding on a square video screen or 100 rigging motors. That's when you're 100% commoditized, which is what we are not. We're commodity, but we also have some secret sauce that we can apply to it, and from a financial standpoint and from a creative standpoint. Our projects division did some amazing creative development and delivered products. Like there was an Art Basel project down in Miami about 2 weeks ago where I did a project through an artist that I knew in Los Angeles. He's kind of like a young Andy Warhol, where we created 7 LED screens for him that we delivered in 68 days into this project for BMW. Right? And then we built spheres for Coldplay tour that fit the narrative of music of the spheres, right? We built Beyonce. She wanted this and the process with her was probably 2.5, 3 years, and that was basically it was an LED screen that was kind of a little bit smaller than a football field that flipped up, and it had a big opening in the middle of it. And we in the creative discussions is like, okay, we can stagger it with, because the LEDs come in squares, so we can stagger the squares and we can build a border around it. And she's like, nah, I want it to be an infinity. So we build the little pieces that make the difference, so it looks like, the edge of an infinity pool. And so when you're looking into that thing, there's no big black border that's like drawing your eye to it. And the fact that she had the vision and the people at Stewfish could translate that to us through her and through the meetings. And then we're able to, very much so at the very last minute, have Frederick Opsimer and his team outside of Belgium and Oostende build that with our office in China, who's on the production line getting it done and deliver it on time. Yeah, no, we've got
Frederick's a smart dude. I remember I had him on a podcast once, and really
he's delightful,
guy. Interesting guy.
He's delightful. He's big into the racing. He'd be a good one.
A lot of
Jeremy.
guys in our business are. Yeah, a lot of people in our business. It's crazy when I go to LDI or whatever now. I have more people coming up to me in the aisles asking me about Jeremy than I do asking about gear or asking about whatever. It's always,
Yeah.
hey, your kid, I follow your kid. So what's going on? You know,
Oh,
it's
that's
like
nice.
it's you know, the Drive to Survive Netflix thing. So Netflix, I wanted to talk to you about this because I know we're both fans of two guys who have had very controversial specials on Netflix,
I love
and
them.
you might have some insight into this, but how the hell? And so there's Dave Chappelle is sort of at one level from a standpoint of crudeness, but this new Ricky Gervais thing. So funny story because I watched it with my girlfriend and like her niece and her niece's boyfriend and her sister and stuff.
Okay, that would
And
be interesting.
they're a little less, I don't know, Republican or whatever you want to call it than I am.
Okay, okay.
They were like shocked, like they couldn't believe it. And
It's comedy.
it
It's
is
fucking
comedy.
comedy. It's
But he
fucking
just
comedy.
is so in your face, you know, I'm woke now. His whole like
no,
I'm
no,
woke
no,
and
no. But God bless it. Go back to the last time that he hosted, I think, the Golden Globes, where
yes,
he stood up there
insanely
and
funny.
fucking excoriated
Yeah.
Apple and
Yeah.
talked to him all about how if the Taliban or ISIS,
Yeah, if ISIS had a show, you'd be calling your agents.
if ISIS had a channel, you'd be calling your agents,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, don't come up here and don't thank your God. You just say hello, say thank you, and get the fuck off the stage."
Yeah.
The guy is saying what I think a lot of people are thinking,
Of
but they're
course.
afraid. They're afraid to like.
But the
It's
funniest
almost
part of that Golden Globes speech was like when they flashed to like Tom Hanks
Apple,
or
yeah.
Ron Howard or Tim Cook from Apple, and they were trying to like,
They didn't know what to do.
like they knew it was funny, but they couldn't laugh, and
You
it
know
was
what?
so
They
rude.
would have.
And
They would have been so much smarter to just howl at themselves than
Yeah.
try to look serious about it all. Because you know what? That's you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I'm a libertarian. I'm pretty much down the middle, but I lean towards the right, towards conservative values.
I think we're the same.
Yeah, and I can have a conversation with a Democrat and I can learn something. I can I hadn't thought about that. And I can have a conversation with a Republican or a libertarian or something. I always am open to learning something. Right. I find that the left is really dug in and they go from 0 to 100 angry. It's just my perception. Right.
That is mine as
and
well.
that's what happens in this comedy stuff. Like, I love it when they're taking the piss out of Republicans, or when they're making fun of Trump, or they're making fun of, whoever, right? I think it's satire,
Yeah.
it's comedy, it's funny, and God bless them if they can't just have a good laugh. If we can't laugh at ourselves, we're fucked.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I mean, so did you see the new Ricky Gervais yet?
No, you told me about it.
Oh my God, John! There's one scene. There's one scene that he's talking about.
Don't tell me.
No, I'm just going to tell you a little bit of it. He's talking about handicapped kids, and
I saw it.
The part about the kid basically earning a puppy. The kid wanted a puppy, and so he had to work for it. Oh my! I was like.
I love how he, halfway through these absolutely cringeworthy comedy, he'll go, what? He'll challenge you.
I'm right.
In the middle of it.
Yeah, you've seen it. I'm right. Yeah.
I know what you're thinking. Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, I know where Netflix is based. I know what kind of people work there. I know who they vote for, and I know what the company generally stands for. There's got to be a room full of people who saw this and just went,
no, buddy. It was big news, Marcel. Go back a couple of years when Chappelle came out with his special that was like super in the libs face, right?
Yeah.
They all walked out.
Yeah.
And they demanded that he be canceled.
Yeah.
And whoever runs Netflix said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's comedy. And I thought, wow. There's somebody that's really, there's a corporation that's got it's like, you know what? You work here. You chose, this is our thing. You're not going to tell us how to do this.
Yeah.
It's like that. I think that's the only time I've seen some big company do something like that where I have said, fucking right on, somebody over there with a spine, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing like when Dana White does it from the UFC, but you know what his audience is. Like they're all right wing
Yeah,
redneck
but
guys watching
I
fighting,
honestly,
right? Netflix is different.
I honestly thought Netflix was going to fold up their tent and cancel Chappelle, and
Yeah.
I was shocked that they said, you know what? It's free speech. It's comedy. Go fuck yourself. Get back
Yeah.
to work or you're fired. Because that's that's what I would say.
But when you see the Ricky Gervais one, you'll understand. I mean, it's next level stuff. This thing, it's like he just said, okay, let's see how far we can push this thing. Let me see how far I can go before somebody says no, Ricky.
Have you seen? He's got a. I think it's like a 2-season series on Prime Video or Netflix or whatever it is.
What's it called?
I don't know, but he's walking by his nephew's like playground on his way to work, and this little chubby redheaded kid's going, pedo, you're a pedo. And he goes, fuck you, little ginger. If I was gonna fuck somebody, you'd be the last one I'd fuck. Now go fuck yourself. And it's just hilarious. Like, did he just say that? It was fantastic. But if you go back, there was I'm a big Gervais fan, and thanks for the tip. I'm looking forward to seeing that, right? Because we're so overwhelmed with content these days. It's like, what do you watch, right? I'm actually watching The Sopranos start to finish again right now.
Oh my God.
I'm like on season 2, and I'm going, God, I don't remember this.
Except for the final episode, such a great show. The Don't Stop Believing thing at the end, I just wanted to kill them for that. It was like, come on.
But Gervais had an HBO show where it was him and the other 2 guys, I can't remember their names. They were in a studio talking at the very beginning, and as they're speaking, a very slow wave comes across them, and they all turn into cartoons. And it's the 3 of them doing a podcast, and it's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Huh.
You have to go look
and that's
up.
On what?
I think it was on HBO, and it was like probably 15 years ago. And it's him and gosh, I can't remember the other 2 guys' names, but there's the one kind of goofy guy they keep sending out to do weird shit, right? And he comes back, Merchant. One of the guys' last names is Merchant, and I forget the other guy's name. But you should actually watch it. But the beginning of it is the 3 of them kind of sitting there like you with the microphone around about a half moon table, and it just slowly sweeps over, and they all turn into cartoons. And each episode's completely different. It's fucking hilarious.
You know what I need is I need our new producer Sarah to, like, just like Jamie on the Joe Rogan show. I need to say, hey Sarah, look that up, and then she'll come back and go, yeah, it's the Joe Schmo show or whatever.
Well, that's what I thought she was doing with the.
She wasn't. She just doesn't follow along like that. Like she's learning the ropes right now. So
it's been nice knowing you, Sarah. It's been nice knowing you.
I can see her, so she's making fun of us right now.
Now she's going, that guy does look like an old man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I got the Ricky thing way late. Like I didn't even really know who he was. I knew who he was to look at him or whatever. He did some funny shows and stuff that I saw, but I really got into him either the Golden Globes thing or the first Netflix special that he did, which just completely cracked me up. And then I just became a huge fan, and I'm taking any of his content.
So go back and look for that show I was telling you that turns into a cartoon. And then he's got another show. It's either Prime or Netflix, where he works in a small town newspaper, and his wife has passed away. And he's got these cast of characters around him, and they go into these situations. It's almost like Curb Your Enthusiasm-esque, right? Like he takes this guy with him who's like the photographer, who's this really kind of frumpy, obese, kind of slow moving guy, and like they're interviewing a lady who makes pudding with breast milk. Right, but he doesn't know it's breast milk, and they're talking about how great this pudding is. And she says, "Would you like some?" And he goes, "Oh no, I'm okay." And he hears this, and he looks over, and the big fat guy and he goes,
You sent me this clip, I'm sure, on Instagram at one of your 3 o'clock in the morning clips that you send me.
Yeah,
I wake up every morning and I look at the Instagram videos that John sent me overnight to figure out
Dude, I can't
what you've
sleep.
been up to. I see
I
that.
can't sleep.
I
I
know. I
wake up
talked
at
to you at
like
all
1.
kinds of different times. It's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
like
So,
somebody said, are you jet lagged from the last trip?" I go, "I think I'm jet lagged from like the last 40 years. If I get 5 in a row, I'm like, yes."
John, you're staying pretty healthy. I mean, you're in your, I won't say your age, but
No,
you're
I'm
in your 60s.
65. I'm
Okay,
I'm
you're
65.
65.
Yeah.
So, you're very healthy for a guy who for the first half of his life,
Oh yeah.
couldn't stuff enough shit up his nose or drink enough alcohol or be
Yeah.
destructive enough. And
Yeah.
then plus the stress and the travel and everything that our business throws at you, you're very healthy. So is that by accident, or do you have some sort of a routine? Like, what do you do
Well,
to
on
stay
it,
healthy?
I'll tell you what. It's genes. It's
Hmm.
just genes. You know what? I
What,
like
you
a
buy
lot
them
of
too
my
tight?
Yeah, exactly. No, buy them loose.
Uh,
So it's like my mother and father. My father passed away in a car accident when he was like in his early 50s. So there's not too good history there. But his family was very healthy. My mom's side of the family, they were Danish. My mom was Danish and Italian, 50-50. And then my dad was pretty much Scotch, English, Irish, right? Wiseman is a Scottish name,
huh.
and ironically, I get invited to a ton of bar mitzvahs. It's weird
I
with all the
assumed you
Jewish.
were Jewish.
No, with all the
Somewhere in there,
Jewish,
you know?
yeah, with all the Jewish shit going on right now, I get drawn into it by accident because of my last name, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm fucking Scottish,
Yeah.
and
People
I
send you
actually
prayers in Hebrew and stuff, and you're like, what is this?
dude, I did the DNA test just thinking maybe that there was, and it's flat out exactly what my parents told me. My mom's half Danish, and my mom is half Italian. Her parents were her dad was right off the boat from Italy. Her mom was right off the boat from Copenhagen, and then
Hmm.
the other side of it, the Wiseman side, they came over like in the 1600s from to escape whatever the fuck was going on over there, and they're all Midwest. We're all Ohio and Arkansas, and
Hmm.
so now I mean I've been very lucky. Like my first wife, who did not do drugs or alcohol, but just finally said to me, why don't you just fall down like everybody else? And I said, God, I wish I would. It'd make this a lot easier to stop. Oh, am I frozen again?
You were for a second. It's coming back.
Okay,
You're
so
good.
I'm back. So yeah, I think it's a good gene pool, but the last 28 years, I haven't had a drop of alcohol or a drug or anything else, and I've tried to eat well, and I have from those good genes that I talk about, I have obese people on either side of the family, so I'm highly aware that I have to be really careful about what I
Yeah.
eat and some kind of thing. And I boxed off and on for about 25 years. That was a great way to keep to get the aggression out, but also to keep fit, right?
Yeah.
And now I have a pretty decent. I try to walk 10,000 steps a day. I'm
Yeah.
unsuccessful, but I try.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just
The sleep thing,
I
though, like one day when you and I have some time, I've studied it a bunch. I pay a lot of attention to it. Sleep is a
yeah,
very, very important thing. One thing you could
super
do, this
important.
this ring that I wear is called an Aura ring.
Okay,
Um, get one of those. It's OURA, and it tracks your
okay,
sleep and it tracks your activity. It tracks all kinds of stuff, and it does it in the background. You don't have to do anything. You charge it
yeah,
every 3 or 4 days or whatever, five
yeah.
days, and but you start realizing what your patterns are and where you're going wrong, and you know, getting 7 hours sleep a night in a row like really
Well,
changes your life.
it's not going to happen because of my travel schedule and the different time zones I'm in. It's just, and I push myself because I just push myself. I can tell you what my sleep patterns are. They're completely fucked. I don't need a ring to tell me that. If I stayed home for
We're
6
trying
months,
to fix it though, John. We're trying to
yeah,
fix it. It's not just
believe me,
discovering it. By paying
I got,
attention to it and looking at
yeah,
what's going on and then looking for improvements, it's
yeah.
it's poking you constantly to improve it a bit.
Well, let me
But
talk about that. Let me talk about the health thing really quick too,
yeah.
because the one thing that I have always done, even when I was not behaving well, is I always got an annual physical,
Yeah.
always, and I always stayed up on that. And so, it's the end of December 2023 right now. In September of 2022, I went and I had my physical and did the blood test, and I do the whole, I mean, I do everything. And the doctor says, hey, everything's great. You having any issues? I said, well, I'm having this one kind of issue, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you know what? Let's check your PSA. And, your PSA is fine. Last year it hasn't gone up, and PSA relates to prostate for those who don't know. And so he said, well, you know what? Yeah, you should be fine. So I talked to that's my doctor up here. Then I talked to my doctor down in LA that I've had forever. And he said, let's do this particular test and just to make sure you're good. And I said, okay. So I went in. Long story short, prostate cancer. All right. That was September of 2022. And so he's like, okay, so, and here's where you have to be an advocate on your own behalf with your medical guys. You don't just, like a lot of people, just the doctor says it, he's the doctor, blah, blah, blah. My doctor said, look, here's your options. Now you got to be a detective on your own behalf, right? You have to be an advocate on your own behalf. So man, I just dove into it. So I became the absolute authority on prostate cancer, to the point to where I've had 2 friends that I've actually shepherded in who have been through the same procedures I've been, and they're both successfully okay now too.
Wow.
So yeah, my doctor said, read this book from a guy named Dr. Patrick Walsh. He wrote the book on men's prostate cancer. A very readable book. Got it on Amazon. Read it. Went through it. So this Patrick Walsh guy, he's the guy. So I call him. He's at people go, you just called him? I go, yeah, it's a fucking human being. So I just found his phone number. I called him at the Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I got him on a phone. And I'm like, hey, this is my deal. I think I want to get my prostate removed, but I don't want to lose the ability to, have sex, and I don't want to lose my have problems with my bladder and all these other things, all the other stuff that 10 years ago automatically happened to you. You were never able to perform. You had problems urinating, all these things that 10 years ago were now, they had fixed them through technology, right? And this guy was the leader in the technology. And I said, okay, I'll fly back to Baltimore. I want you to do my surgery. And he said, well, I'm the last 10 years I've taught people. So he's telling me about this. So I said, okay, look, he says, where are you located? And I said, well, this is a karma thing too. This is going to crack you up, Marcel. I said, well, I'm on the West Coast, so I can go to LA and go to San Francisco, what I need to do. And he goes, well, he goes, what city are you in? I said, I live in Reno, Nevada. He goes, oh, Dr. Angelo Canellis, he's one of the top 3 in the nation. He said all he does is this robotic surgery with the Da Vinci machine. He's your guy. He's the best guy. You're fucking kidding me.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, and it's because I had the balls, probably from my sales background. I just picked up the phone and went through Johns Hopkins till I found the guy and got him on the phone. Huh. So then I do the same thing in Reno. I get this Canellis guy on the phone. I meet with him. I went to high school with the fucking guy. Him and I were in Reno High together, right? And he's like top 3 in the world of doing this surgery in Reno, Nevada. That's and crazy. It's like that's a shot from God, right? Yeah, so I meet with the guy. We sit down and I said, Angelo, I got to tell you, I don't really remember. I don't remember you from high school. And he goes, well, I remember you. And I went, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he goes, no, you were always really kind, but you were pretty fucking wild. I said, yeah. I said, well, he goes, John, some of us had to go to class, some of us had to study. And I said, well, Angelo, I'm so glad you did. So long story short, he sits down, we do it. And, I go in, I had the surgery in December. I'm home. Surgery December 1, I'm home December 3rd. Healed up. I'm 100% back to everything normal, and I'm cancer free. It's because I did an annual checkup. It's because I didn't fuck around, and I became an advocate on my own behalf to find out what the best thing to do was,
John,
right?
It's such an important point and very timely, because I listened this morning on my long walk. I listened to Joe Rogan's latest podcast, which is with a guy named Brigham Bueller. And okay. I've heard him before. I've learned a bunch from this guy before, but he talked about exactly pretty much what you're talking about right now, which is you have to manage your health, because what your doctor is doing, what your insurance company is doing, what all of these hospitals and everybody are doing. They're managing the expense. They're going to push you towards whatever earns them the most money and away
Yeah.
from whatever earns them the least money or costs them the most money. And so you have to be paying very close attention. And insurance is not really insurance. It's, what did they call it? They called it healthcare management.
Well,
Is
they're all
really what it is now.
actuaries. They're gamblers. They're gambling.
Yeah, it's not
They're
even that
gambling.
anymore now though, because they own so many components of the healthcare circle, and
But my point is, it's no different than life insurance. They've got 10,000 accountants in a room with spreadsheets who go, okay, if we charge these guys $1,000, and if X amount of them get sick, and we're able to mitigate the costs, they're rolling the dice is what they're doing, and then they're becoming the house,
it's
the
worse
casino,
than that.
because they
It's
own
worse than that.
own the fucking the healthcare.
But what if they were the house casino, but they knew what your next card was? Because that's what these people are. So they're doing.
100%.
They have access to your data, so they know,
No, I know.
what your tests are showing. They know the size of your prostate. They know the last time you did whatever, or what. They know what's coming, and so they know when to jack up your rates. They know when to cut you.
And the problem is that we are trained to be trusting of institutions. Let's not even get into the COVID bullshit we all just went through that now has been revealed as like, okay, half of it was just they didn't know. They were just talking shit, but they would stop you from working. But so I became an advocate on my behalf. And I can't tell you how many times I said, no, go fuck yourself. I paid for this. This is what we're going to do. My doctor's telling me this is this. And you know what? My healthcare consultant, who is blah, blah, blah. You know what? And what I did, Marcel, was I just ordered what needed to be ordered. And I did what needed to be done. And when they gave me the bills, I told them to go fuck themselves. And they folded and went away.
That's hilarious.
Nobody fights them.
Seriously, do yourself a favor. Listen to this podcast, the Joe Rogan from today or yesterday or whatever. Brigham Bueller, I think his name is. Really, really smart dude. He owns like a company called something Will to Well or Well to something or other. But he goes outside insurance. It's a cash pay healthcare model. And one of the other problems is they won't do tests that are longevity tests or things that are really for your health.
So let me tell you about this. This morning, I was talking to a former board member who's a friend of mine from PRG, but this guy's involved. He's a partner with Richard Branson on the Virgin Galactica. He's into everything, right? So he told me, he goes, I'm going to send you something that, because he's one of the top guys in this healthcare thing, and he said there's a test, and I'll pull up the name of it here. He said there's a test that you can take. It's $700. And it will tell you what cancers you'll have before they even reach stage 1.
Yeah, early cancer screening. Yeah. Well, I know one, which is oh God, I almost did it. It's not that expensive at all, and it tests for 100 different things, including heavy metals.
That's the one I'm talking about, and he's on the board of that company. And here it is, the company. So the company that he's on the board
probably
of,
Mark Hyman's company, which is called.
He's a vice chairman. It's called the Buck Institute. The Buck Institute is apparently very, very famous thing, and it's a health cheat sheet. And so, what do you say about third one down? It's a test. I don't want to eat up all your time here. I'll let you know, and you can pass it on. But it's a test, and he said, so he's talking to the CSOs and the CTOs of these companies saying, why don't you guys pay for this test? And they said, well, because you know what? This fucking blew my mind. We don't want to pay for those tests because, we have a turnover of employees about every 2 or 3 years. So we don't get any benefit from finding out that they're going to be sick because they're going to be gone anyway.
Jesus.
Think about that.
That's dark. You know who else is a brilliant guy
your
to follow?
actuary.
Gary
Who's
Brecka.
that?
Gary Brecka. Gary Brecka is the
Brecka.
guy who transformed Dana White. And Dana White was
Okay.
like pre-diabetic, way
Yeah, I heard
overweight,
about this guy. I
looked
heard about this
100
guy.
years old, was literally dying slowly, right?
Yeah.
And he put him on like I think a 6-month program. He lost, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds, looks 15 years younger, is
Uh-huh.
so much healthier, diabetes gone, everything gone. And I'm actually doing, he does a 3-day fast, which I'm doing not next week, the following week, which scares the hell out of me because I've never gone 3 days without food. So that's going to be weird.
No,
But
the first couple of days are the hardest. You end up with a headache or something. I did
first
that
couple
intermittent
hours will be
fasting for
the
a while.
hardest.
Yeah, there's a thing called Prolong, PROLONG, and it's like a milkshake kind of fast, but it's soups and stuff. And
Yeah.
I do that every 3 or 4 months just to like
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of
Good for
kickstart it.
you, man.
Yeah,
Good
I
for
mean,
you.
yeah, I was hovering around. So I'm 6'2", or I used to be. I think I'm a lot shorter now, but I was hovering. I would always carry 220, 225, and
Yeah.
there was always that that 10 fucking pounds that I hated. Right, the part that you put your pants on, you're like, God damn it.
Well, and it's the
Right,
visceral fat too. It's around your liver and around your heart, and
yeah.
it's the bad
So
stuff.
I'm
That's the heart attack fat.
So I said in March, I'm changing this. I'm in my mid 60s now. I'm changing this. So I've dropped down to about 203,
Good
and
for
I'm
you,
working
man.
out now. Well, yeah, but I had that weird thing where it's like, I used to have pretty good muscles, and I looked down, I saw wrinkly skin. I thought, motherfucker, I'm turning into
It's
that
bad
guy.
though.
So I've been hitting the gym. I've been hitting
Yeah.
the gym and feeling good about it. And the thing about the gym is, I hate it. I hate it when I walk in, and I'm so happy when I leave because I did that. It's so weird because every time I'm like driving there thinking, I got too much to do, and then as soon as I'm done with it, I go, man, I am so glad I did that. And if I can get 2 weeks good going like that, the addictive
It
mind I
becomes a
had,
habit. Yeah.
kicks in. I have to do it.
Yeah. That's how I am. If I don't exercise every day, so I have so many friends. It's a good point. I have so many friends who walk every day or go for a run or ride their bike, and they think that's enough. But the problem is when you get to be our age, this sarcopenia thing where your muscles disappear sets in,
Yeah.
and it's very, very bad for you. And that's one of the big, very negative things towards aging, and makes you age faster and it leads you to disease. So
Yeah, well,
lifting weights is
osteoporosis and all
so
the other stuff.
important.
And so my doctor that I was talking about, the guy down in LA, he said, okay, now that you've dropped the weight, now that you're feeling good about it, he said, what you really have to do is, he says, you got to hit the gym, and you got to hit the weights. And he goes, and listen, I know who you are. This doesn't mean you lift weights like you're 25.
Yeah.
He goes, you'll hurt yourself. He said, get in some medium weights, get some good reps in. He goes, you don't have to fucking be that guy you think you got to be.
You kind of do though. You have to strain your muscles, and you have to build new muscle, because otherwise it doesn't have the same effect. You should lift the heaviest weight you can.
But that's the problem, is that I would lift. I used to lift a lot, so I would.
You'd go straight
like,
to 300-pound bench pressing or something.
Yeah, I used to do that. Don't do that again. Right?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Go in and hit if you can do 12 reps with it, go up 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And then you do 10 and you're straining, and then your trainer helps you with the last 2. And then pretty soon you're doing 12 with that. Then you go to the next one.
Squats is the other big one. Squats, just body weight squats are really good.
Body weight squats blew my mind. I did them. My guy got me doing them where you go down on the bench and you're up and down. I couldn't fucking walk the next day. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, the first day is pretty tough. Yeah, I do them almost every day, and it's stuff that Here's the deal. I'm not trying to live 120 years. I'm trying to live to whatever I live to. Healthy
Quality.
right up till that point. I want to drop dead after being sick for a week, not for 10 years. It's like
right
my
up
mom's
to the
in a
day
dementia
you put
home.
the gun in your mouth.
My mom's in a dementia home for the last 10 years. She doesn't know where she is.
I just got in that test that I was talking about. I got tested for the Alzheimer gene. There's an Alzheimer gene.
Yeah.
And my mother very much like I mean, it used to be you just went senile, but now there's dementia, now there's Alzheimer's, there's different types of it. They've got it down. My mom, the last 10 years of her life was Alzheimer's, and you would just watch this incredible,
That's
horrible
terrible.
shit show go on. It's
The
just
worst.
fucking horrible to watch,
The
right?
worst.
And so I was thinking, you know, I'm always losing my keys, and I can't find my wallet. It's like, oh shit, here we
Normal.
go. And yeah, but I've been like that since I was about 10. So my doctor called me. The first thing he said to me, he goes, "Hey, good news. You don't have the Alzheimer's gene." I'm like, oh shit, I must have got my dad's side of it. Thank God, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, my girlfriend, because she's very forgetful, and I always poke on her, you know, going, I know what it looks like. You know, I've watched my mom.
Yeah,
and
I've seen it. Oh, God.
and so she reads books and looks for articles and stuff, and she goes, see, everybody, it's normal. You know, your brain has so much capacity, and different people use different parts of the brain for different things. I don't typically. I always have to put my keys in the same place. Otherwise, I'll lose them every single time I put them
me
down.
too.
Well, keys, wallet, friggin' remote, anything. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm the guy who used to put the remote in the fridge because I was on a phone call or something.
I've done
right?
that too. I've done that too. I went looking for it one time. I found it in the refrigerator.
Yeah. No, I mean it's completely stupid, but it's just my brain is completely on this phone call, right? So I'm not thinking about.
I'm about 5 minutes ahead of wherever I am.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to ask you about is, you know, I know obviously a lot about your addiction, and we talked about it on one of the podcasts that you were on with me, but today, like how important is sobriety today still? And it's what, 28 years? It's
everything.
Yeah.
If I don't have that, I have nothing else after it, you know, and it's one of the, you know, I get the pat on the back every now and then. Oh, you work with these, you know, the 12th step is to take the message to other people, right? And so the normies think, oh, what a good guy, you know, you're helping other people. Nah, I mean, that's the byproduct of it. What I learned very early in addiction in going through these 12 steps, and I'm passionate about the 12 steps. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which are the derivative of all the anonymous programs, CA, NA, sexual addiction, everything, is of those 12 steps, the only one that ever mentions alcohol. Am I frozen again?
No.
There we go.
I'm listening to you.
The only one that ever mentions alcohol is step 1. And it says, admit that you were powerless over alcohol and your life had become unmanageable. And it's like, well, that's pretty fucking easy. You know, I had to borrow money to go into a rehab center. So yeah, I'll give you that. I am powerless over this. And my life has become unmanageable. Step 2 through 12 is a roadmap for any human being on planet Earth, with or without an addiction, to be a good person. It's about making amends. It's about cleaning up your past. It's about, you know, accountability. It's about, you know, being there for other people. The 2 through 12 is an absolute wonderful roadmap to just be a decent human being. It's
Don't
got nothing.
be a dick.
Yeah, it's that simple. And so for me, you know, the 12th step is taking the message to others who are suffering, right? And so I'm just available to people who, you know, I don't push it, I don't sell it. You know, if you ask about my own personal, you know, things I've gone through, I'm very open about it. But because that means I'm open to it, right? So if someone hears me say that, like on this podcast, for instance, and you're having trouble with this, you do whatever you want with your life. You know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to tell you what to do because you wouldn't listen anyway. I just happen to have learned through the kindness of others and through the God of my choice that there's a better way to do this. And so I'm open to it. And, you know, in that 12-step part, if I'm not present, clean, sober, and in a good frame of mind for myself, I can't be here for anybody else.
Yeah.
So it has to be, you know, if I'm not working my program and trying to be the best person I can every day, which, by the way, completely unsuccessful at it every day, but more successful than I used to be, If I'm not here, I can't be here for my wife. I can't be here for my kids. I can't be here for my friends. I can't be here for people who might not know me. But anytime anyone comes to me and says, "Hey, can we talk about this?" I'm very blunt about it. I just say, "Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you what worked for me. If you want to talk about this, I'm open to talk about it." But sobriety Marcel, to answer your question, circle back around. And I'm sorry, I always give long
No,
answers.
it's good.
The thing is that if I don't have sobriety, I know what the other guy is. I don't fucking want anything to do with that man. He's not a good human being.
But can I ask you? Yeah, I know you say you don't sell anybody on it or anything. Excuse me, but if you see someone getting wasted who is on a crew, or maybe he's not working with you, but it's someone you know or whatever. Like I walked in on a bandmate one time when I had already quit doing anything bad other than drinking. And, I saw his arm was all tied off and he was just about to put the needle in his arm. And I had never seen anybody do that except at the doctor's office. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? But like,
Doesn't work.
You wouldn't try to stop someone and steer them at that point?
No.
Or have you tried to? Yeah, I agree with what you say though. You're just a narc at that point, right? Like they don't listen to you.
You're that guy that we hated. I'm now the guy that I hated, So I think you lead by example, and you do it with absolute unconditional love.
Yeah.
So what I would say, and I've been in situations with that where I've seen people doing that kind of stuff. I've just said, "Hey, bro, you know what? You're going to really hurt yourself or somebody else. God bless you. Do whatever you want to do. When you're ready to talk about this, I'm an open book.
Yeah.
You know what? When you're ready to get, I know you're miserable. So when you're ready to not be miserable, I know how you can get out of this, but God bless, go blow yourself up."
Jesus. It's a scary life.
Well, it's counterintuitive. So I'll finish with one short story about that. Okay.
Please.
So I was at a meeting in Westlake Village, California, at the local church there. And, sometimes there's speakers meetings. And I think I was speaking that night. There's like a 5-minute slot, a 20-minute slot, and a 30-minute slot. I think it was a 20-minute slot that night. Just to talk about, you share your own experience, strength, and hope, right? And you talk about your story. And I never wanted to do this. And my sponsor said, "You have to get up and you have to talk. You have to take a birthday cake." Because I didn't want to take a birthday cake. I thought it was fucking bullshit. He goes, "You know what?" I go, "Why?" And he goes, "They have to see that if a fucking piece of shit loser like you can do it, anyone can. You have to be that guy." And I go, "Okay, all right." So I give my little pitch that night about what it used to be like and what it's like now. And that's really the pitch. And it's all about my personal stuff, not talking about anyone else. And so at the end of this, there's a gal comes up and she's got this kid with her, who's a very famous, successful guitar player in a young band that was blowing up. And I knew who he was. And so she says to me, "Hey, this is so-and-so." And I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" He goes, "Okay." And he says, "I know who he is." And he says, so you're in the music business?" "Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm having a really hard time." I said, "Hey, man, you know what? God bless you." He goes, so we just a very quick meet and greet, right? So I go home. The next day, I'm getting ready to go with my family somewhere. And this is the other part about, if I'm not there for myself, I can't be there for anybody else, right? This gal calls and she said, "Hey, remember that kid you met last night?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, he stayed at me and my husband's house last night. He was on the couch and he's having a really hard time. It's his second day without drugs. Can you come talk to him?" I said, "Absolutely. I'll be right there." So I told my wife, who got it at the time, I said, "Look, I'm going to go do this," right? So I go over to the house, I sit down, and this is a kid who's now internationally famous, band blowing up, more money than he knows what to do with, and is absolutely fucking killing himself, right? And so we sit down, and I sit down right in front of him on the couch, and I go, so "I'm here, man. How can I help you?" And he goes, "Man, I just having trouble with this, and I don't know what to do, And then he kind of goes through the spiel, and then he looks at me and he says, "I'd really like to get I'd really like to get some cocaine right now. I'd like to get some blow, and I'd like to get some whiskey. And I look at him and I go, well, then you should go get some. You should get some blow. You should get some whiskey. He goes, what? I go, look, if that's what you really want to do, that's what you should do. He goes, well, why are you telling me that? I said, hey, bro, if you're not done, then you're not done.
Yeah.
I said, go fucking knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And at that point, Marcel, the kid gets fucking livid. He starts talking to me like I'm his bitch tour manager. He goes, hey, man, you're supposed to be fucking helping me, man. Or what are you telling me to do this stuff for? I said, are you done? And he goes, yeah. And I go, what makes you think I give a fuck about you? He's like, what? I go, I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck if you die right now. I don't care. And now he's like, well, then why did you even come over here? I go, let me tell you why I came over here. I said, because you want what I have. And I can teach you how to get what I have through a program that has saved my life, okay? I just swung by today to take a look at you and remind myself where I never want to be again. You fucking stink. You're wearing the same fucking clothes. You're shaking. You're fucking miserable. And I said, fuck you. I just wanted to remind myself where I never want to be again. So if you want to have what I have, I can teach you how to get. I know how to get what you have, and I ain't fucking interested, but I just wanted to take a look at it today. Kid changed his whole vibe.
Really? And then
100%. He's still clean and sober, and that was 12 years. That was 12 years ago. Yeah,
that's wild.
Because I didn't wipe his fucking ass,
Yeah.
and I didn't tell him, "Oh, God will help you." I said, "Go kill yourself. I don't give a shit." I just wanted to take a look at where I never ever want to be, and so that's the 12th step. Is sharing your experience, strength, and hope with people, but it's also
you do it in a special
selfish.
way, though, John.
Well, it's very selfish. It literally is me seeing where I never want to be again, and when you're sitting in front of this kid, and I've done this numerous times, and I'm just like, oh God, that misery, that absolute hopelessness and despair, and just circle in the drain, and you can't get out of it. How do you break the cycle? Well, breaking the cycle is not be going, oh gosh, let me help you. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because you're the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's how important it is to me. And that's what I do if I come across it. I'm just blunt, honest, fucking blunt.
Yeah. John, great to see you.
There you go.
I appreciate
great to see
you, buddy.
Too, Marcel.
Thank you
Always
so much.
Good, man.
And
Thanks for
Happy
reaching
New Year.
out. I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but you and I always
everything.
gab.
Nothing and everything. We should do this once every friggin' couple of months. Nothing
I love you,
and
pal.
everything.
And Sarah,
you too, buddy.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
See you, bud.
Bye-bye.